Welcome in next episode of True Story, documentary interview series with the most talented authors of Eastern Europe, powered by Institute of Documentary Film in Prague and Film New Europe. Today with Radovan Síbrt. Hello, Radovan.
Hello.
Two Roads is a film about the Stop Up Orchestra, its band leader Šimon Ornest, and their fascinating journey from the Jedlička Institute for the differently abled to pop star stardom. We all know your clip for the Stop Up Orchestra called Bus Director. Was this the first time you met Stop Up Orchestra?
Well, I knew them before. We met years before that a music video was created, as I knew Šimon Ornest, the band leader, for years, from the childhood, basically. We played in a band together. And when I started studying at FAMU, he came to me asking me if I would like to help them with a music video. And we started working on this, the Bus Driver music video, which became a huge hit. And it was our collaboration that was successful, although we didn't speak with Šimon for a year after completing this video, because he didn't like the outcome. He wasn't happy. He saw that there was a chance to make it better. Now I see it as well, but at that time I felt I was a little bit sensitive.
Let's watch a bit of it.
Ahoj, já jsem Láďa Angelovič z Stop Up a vítám vás na našem YouTube kanále. Zdravotní stav prezidenta se nám zroda nejlepší. Můj taky ne.
Raz, dva, tři a...
Vy máte v kapele muzikantov, ktorí trpia progresívnymi ochoreniami, ktoré ich...
Já vás musím zastavit. Nikdo netrpí, žijou s diagnózou.
OK.
2 brady, kouření a 100 kg sádla je normální.
Zda dobrovolně vstupujete do manželství?
Ano. Péťo, tak tohle, kdyby se ti stalo na tom pódiu, tak to vůbec nemůžeme zpívat, tu písničku.
Můžeme si tady s vámi na fotku?
No jasně. Není rád?
Vole, to ale mě děti neblázněte. Střídej kotle na 2. a 4. Pam, pam.
Občas každýho z nás napadne, jestli by nebylo lepší se na to vysrat.
Soucit a lítost nikdy nikoho nikam neposunou.
Ale já žiju svůj život ráda.
To je za Sparty.
Dokážu být dost živá. Žiju svůj život ráda. A prej jsem v tom nakažlivá.
My pak řekneme, jak we are coming, vole, do kapesníku.
This music video made really big success in Czech Republic. Why? Why was it so successful, in your opinion?
It seems a little bit relict to me. It's like ancient thing, but apparently the most successful thing I've ever made. All the kids know me thanks to this video. Well, they know my work, not me, although I act in the video as well. Because the story of the music is very interesting, and it deals with stupidity of people, and people love this. So I would say it's the lyrics that sell the music.
Did it make some change? I remember when it was out and the discussion around it was really huge. Did it make some change for the people?
Yes, it did actually. It deals with the problem that some of these people in the band need to use little bicycles to be able to move from place to place. Instead of a wheelchair, they use a kid's bicycle. And they were constantly being kicked out from buses and trams in Prague because the bus drivers and the tram drivers had instructions that no bicycles are allowed on the bus or on the tram. And they couldn't explain that it's not a bicycle for fun, it's a bicycle that helps them move around. They cannot move around without it. So actually it happened even on the way to the shooting. The main actor in the video was kicked out from the bus, so he had to take a taxi to get to the shooting. And after this video was released, the director of the Prague City Transportation Company, he made a ruling and they made a lecture for the bus drivers and for the tram drivers to be smarter in applying the restrictions they have. Okay, so they had to start thinking who is in front of them. So they actually, from that moment, differently abled people are allowed to use bicycle if it's a transportation means a transportation thing that they need to use. Okay, so nowadays you can use bicycles, you can take bicycles on trams and buses anyways. I mean, it's a new policy, but at that time you were not allowed to do it. So it changed the way they could move around the city, and it was a huge hit. Yes,
it was, and so
it still is actually. All the kids play it. My kids love it.
True.
Kids at the school love it. So
that's true.
It's the music this. And maybe the video that we created helps it a little bit. But I think it's the music that is the catching thing.
Together with the video, I guess. So was this success the beginning of your cooperation on the film Two Roads?
Well, that was the moment we started talking about a film, okay? But that's years and years ago. And because what happened was and I keep repeating this story because for me it's an important story, and it shows how people think in this country, or they used to think, but they still do think this way. Šimon, the band leader, took this video to a commercial TV that focuses on music, and he showed it to the program director of the TV, and the guy loved it. He was really excited. He was like, "Guys, this is amazing music, great video. I love it. I see there is only one problem in the video, and it's the disabled people, okay? Because no audience wants to watch people with disabilities, so don't put them inside of these videos, okay?" And Šimon was insulted because he was like, "Well, come on, this is a video about people with disabilities, so they have to be inside of the video." He says, "Well, sorry, we can't play it because our audience is not interested in this." And that was the moment we started talking about a film. We were like, okay, let's make a film that people will love watching, okay? Because we wanted to make I was, from the first moment I saw the Tap Tap band, I was admiring the energy. It wasn't the music at first at all. I'm not such a great fan of all the music by this band. I actually, when I met them, they hardly played anything, okay? They could hardly hit the drum. That was, the concerts were more musical torture than a performance.
Like musical workshops.
Yes, it was a workshop, yes. But I loved the energy. I loved the way they enjoyed it. I loved the way they made humor. I loved the black humor. Sometimes the black humor, because I wasn't used to it, was so black that it made me really nervous. I was like, well, come on, guys. I mean, you cannot insult. You cannot talk this way in between each other. But then I started getting used to it, and I liked it. So, and the music was getting better as well. And we started talking about a film, but I didn't know how to approach it for a long time. And then we stopped talking about the film. We started again and stopped. But my problem was that I didn't know how to approach the group, how to make the film. And I personally hate films about people with disabilities, because usually the films are shot from a position of somebody who is the healthy one and feels pity for the people in front of the camera. And that's something that I hate. I can't stand it. I don't want to watch these films. And I didn't want to make a film similar to this one. So it took years to get used to them, to understand them. And then the story was a little bit more complicated, but to make it short, then we thought it's time to do it. And we managed to persuade HBO Europe to come on board in the development phase. And then the Czech Film Fund supported us, and we started filming. And it was still a long journey to go.
Back to really general question. I feel like in the post-communist part of Europe, we have such a big problem with dealing with differently abled people. And why is it so? Do you think that the first reason coming to my mind is that they were closed for decades in institutions and we were not in touch with them? Is it only this, or do you see something more?
I think in our countries, in Central and Eastern post-communist countries, we have a problem dealing with anybody who is a little bit different than us, because we were not used to that. There were no minorities here, and the minorities that lived next to us, we tried to suppress or change them. People, differently abled people, were closed into institutions that were not visited by anybody. Nobody was used to be meeting on regular basis people with disabilities. So I think that was the first problem. And before, because the people with disabilities didn't exist during the communist time, okay? Because it was something that existed only in the West, and the socialist system or the communist system managed to change this. We were perfect people, so you couldn't see that there were also people living or that were using wheelchairs. So I think that is the first problem. We were not exposed to meeting them. We were not exposed to going to school with people with disabilities. They were closed in separate schools. When I came first, I also felt uncomfortable. I didn't know how to talk to them. I didn't know how to deal with the fact that they are on a wheelchair, they speak in a way that it's difficult to understand. I felt also uncomfortable. So it's obviously you have to live next to people who are different to get used to this difference.
Šimon Ornest, leader of the band, is used to deal with people with different disabilities, and he is very open, and he's usually also saying in his media coverage that he don't want people to pity them. Is he the main character of your movie?
I'm not sure who is the main character at this moment. Yes, in a way, yes, he is the moving force of the band. And I admire him for this. And he's very often criticized for his approach. Because exactly, he doesn't give a shit, okay? He considers, and that's the starting point. We have to stop talking about us and them. We are one society, okay? Every one of us is different. All of us have some disabilities, mental, physical, whatever, like social, educational, whatever. They're like, we live with all sorts of disabilities, although some of them are not visible, okay? And that's the starting point. We have to stop talking about us and them. And that's what Šimon is doing. And it makes so many people nervous. He actually makes very often nervous people who want to do good, okay? Mm-hmm. Those people who want to save the world. Mm-hmm. No, Šimon wants them to sing and do properly the work they have to do. That's it.
What was the biggest challenge, if there was any, during the shooting, let's say?
Well, the problem is that the band is used to media coverage. They have been talking a lot on TVs, a lot of crews come, so they are used to a certain way of communicating with camera and people around cameras. But that wasn't my approach. I didn't want them to tell me their part of the story and then I would walk away. And that made them extremely uncomfortable because they didn't understand why I'm staying, why I'm following them, why I am trying to get into their private space. And that made it nearly impossible for a year to shoot. They were trying to jeopardize the shooting for a year because they felt there is something wrong with the way I'm approaching it. And I couldn't explain them for some time because I didn't get the point also. They felt also that because we are friends with Šimon, they felt I am sort of a tool of Šimon to promote his ideas. So they got comfortable only the moment they saw the first scenes from the film. So the moment they saw I'm not taking the side of Šimon. They decided they will cooperate more with me, but that was a really long process, and it surprised me actually.
What was the side of Šimon? What they were afraid of?
They thought I am trying to make Šimon look better than he is, okay? Because that's of course it's a critical position, and they have arguments. Sometimes it's difficult to cope with Šimon because he is in order to be able to deliver what he wants to deliver, he doesn't ask people. It's a big band. You don't ask too many questions. If you want to run a band of this size, you have to order things. And sometimes people don't agree, so they have arguments. They don't agree with what he's doing. And they thought I am making basically a marketing tool for Šimon, which I didn't want to make, but it was difficult to explain.
Then let's go to the editing room. I guess it had to be hard work to put everything together. And my experience is that if you're close to people during shooting, then they expect that they will be part of the team and they will have some voice in what the film will look like. Was this also your experience during this?
That is usual, and I made it very clear at the beginning, there is no interference from anybody. I'm not accepting anybody in the editing room telling me what to do. So it's enough to have producers and co-producers on board and to have also characters interfering with the film. It's something that is, you can feel it very often in all sorts of films that the character was influencing the editing. And I hate that. I can feel it, and I don't want to do that.
True Story is a documentary podcast powered by the Institute of Documentary Film. You can find news from the world of film on all the common platforms such as iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, as well as on docweb.net.
So Šimon at the start wanted to have a clause in his contract that he's going to be approving the film. And we explained him that there is no way we will go on with the film if that stays in the contract. And but that doesn't mean I don't show the film to the characters. I, of course, showed it to them, but only after we agreed with the producers and co-producers. And they actually enjoyed it. They enjoyed it, although they called and they were talking about certain scenes. But by explaining them what I'm doing, they accepted what I was doing, and also the editing, the edit changes. I mean, it wasn't the first. We showed them the first draft edit, so they could talk about it, they could discuss it, they could approach me. But I wasn't editing the film according to their comments, and usually it's completely different things than what you would think they would mind. For example, Jana's mother doesn't like her smoking joints, so she would only care about her smoking joints, okay? Which is something that I explained why it's there, and she accepted at the end, but it wasn't the other scenes that she would mind. So very often it's little details that the characters mind, not the whole structure overall.
What was the reaction of the audience after you let people see your movie?
Well, I showed them the film in their rehearsal room. So it was 8-10 people at the same time after a rehearsal of the band. And they laughed. They loved it. They loved watching each other. And they were, of course, teasing each other the way they do it in the film. So, and of course, Tomek was getting his fits. So he was disturbing the screening of the film all the time. To be honest, I don't know what Tomek really thinks. I don't know what he thinks in normal life. That's why he's not a proper character. He's only, I'm never going with him to his private life because I have no idea how to get into his head. So he is there as somebody who is making the others to move as characters, but he is not a proper character. There is no psychology of his. I don't understand what he's doing, what's happening inside of his head. I have no idea what effect the music has on him. I have no idea what Simon and his approach, how it affects him. These are things that I cannot judge. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a specialist on education of people with all sorts of illnesses. So I cannot judge this. So it's somebody else who should do it. He loved it. He laughed. He was getting fits. He was smiling. But what's happening really inside of his head, I'm sorry, but I have no idea.
Take us a little bit more to the name of the movie. Why Two Roads?
Of course, there was a long discussion about the name of the film, and from the start, we loved the title Postižení muzikou, which is a title that works beautifully in Czech for me.
And in English, could you translate it?
We couldn't translate it into English. We were looking for proper terms, for proper translation. We were using afflicted by music, all sorts of names that didn't really transfer the poetic title, and also were a little bit insulting in English, which is not the case of the Czech name. I think there is a beautiful meaning behind it, that you are on a wheelchair, you have a certain disability, but at the same time, the music is the thing that affects you, basically. So we loved the Czech title, although it also changed a couple of times, and there is always a negotiation with your co-producers. But at the end, we returned to this Czech title, although we couldn't find a proper translation. And we decided at the very end that actually the main theme of the films are the two roads. And it depends what road we take in our life, and whether we take a road where we want to feel sorry, or we are sorry for the way we live, or for the disability we have, or we just try to live. So there are two paths we can take. So I decided it fits the film, and also the song that they sing inside of the film is called Two Roads. So I found it that it's better to go for a different name than to translate something that doesn't work in English.
Okay, when and where we can see the movie?
Of course, we are one of the victims of Corona times, and we had to move the premiere of the film several times. And at the end, we had to go to distribution in September, and after 10 days, it was over. They closed down the cinemas, and I don't think that the film will return to cinemas anymore. So the only chance to see it at the moment is HBO Go, and it seems it's one of their most popular films. It has a great impact, and which we expected to happen in cinemas. Unfortunately, it didn't. And from time to time, you can still see it at all sorts of festivals. Now we are traveling. The film is traveling to Tehran, to Iranian documentary film festival, Cinema Verite, and I'm not sure what will happen after that.
Okay. Thank you, Radovan, for the interview, and big luck with your movie and your next movies. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
True Story is a documentary podcast powered by the Institute of Documentary Film. You can find news from the world of film on all the common platforms such as iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, as well as on docweb.net.